The great station called Nexus Prime floated in the darkness of space like a metal flower. It was the center of galactic power. 12 species sent their leaders here to make decisions that shaped the lives of trillions. Wars were started here. Wars were ended here. Treaties were signed in gold and blood. Today, the council chamber was full. Representatives from all 12 species sat in their assigned seats, arranged in a perfect circle. The room was built to impress visitors. The ceiling rose so high that clouds sometimes formed near the top. Lights of every color shone down from above, making the chamber look like a temple. Ambassador Orin of the Valari stood at the center podium. He was a tall creature with pale blue skin and 4 arms. His people were warriors. They had conquered 17 worlds in the past 100 years. Today, he was here to report their latest victory. The human colony called New Buzan has been pacified, Orin announced. His voice was smooth and confident. Resistance was minimal. The planet is now under Valari control. Some council members nodded. Others looked away. The humans were newcomers to the galaxy. They had only discovered faster-than-light travel 200 years ago. In galactic terms, they were babies. Most species did not take them seriously. Counselor Thax of the Mordae leaned forward. He was a massive creature covered in thick gray scales. His species valued strength above all else. "How many casualties?" he asked. Orin waved one of his forehands dismissively. 47,000 humans eliminated. Our losses were acceptable. 47,000 civilians, someone muttered from the back of the room. It was the Keth ambassador, a small creature with large dark eyes. The Keth were known for their cautious nature. The humans will not forget this, Orin laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. What will they do? Send their tiny fleet against the Valari Empire? We have 10,000 warships. They have perhaps 200. Let them try. The chamber filled with quiet laughter. Even the Keth ambassador said nothing more. Then the alarm started. Red lights flashed across every wall. A deep warning horn echoed through the chamber. Every council member froze in place. Nexus Prime had the most advanced security systems in the galaxy. Nothing could approach without being detected from 1,000,000 kilometers away. A voice came through the speakers. It belonged to the station commander, and it was shaking. "Council members, we have a situation. An unknown vessel has appeared inside our defense perimeter. We do not know how. It bypassed every sensor, every patrol, every security net. It is requesting permission to dock." Orin's confident smile disappeared. "What kind of vessel?" "Small, single pilot. The hull is ... black. Completely black. It absorbs all light. We cannot scan the interior." The council members looked at each other. Fear was starting to spread through the room like cold water. "Destroy it," Orin ordered. "We tried, Ambassador. Our weapons will not lock onto it. The targeting systems cannot see it." Before anyone could respond, a new voice cut through the chaos. It came from the main entrance of the chamber. "It will not be necessary." Everyone turned to look. A human woman stood in the doorway. She was young, perhaps 30 years old, by human standards. Her black hair was pulled back in a tight knot. Her face was calm, almost bored. She wore a simple black suit that fit her perfectly. No armor, no visible weapons. Just a woman in formal clothing. Behind her, 6 Valari guards lay on the ground. They were not dead, but they were not moving either. Their eyes were open, staring at nothing. "Who are you?" Orin demanded. His voice was no longer smooth. "How did you get past security?" The woman walked forward. Her steps were silent on the metal floor. She moved like water, smooth and unhurried. Every eye in the chamber followed her. "Security did not see me," she said simply. "They rarely do." Counselor Thax rose from his seat. He was 3 times her size. His species could tear a human apart with their bare hands. "Answer the question, human. Who are you?" The woman stopped in the center of the chamber, exactly where Orin had been standing moments ago. She looked around at the 12 representatives of galactic civilization. Her dark eyes moved from face to face, studying each one. When she spoke again, her voice was quiet but perfectly clear. It reached every corner of the massive room. My name is Yuna. I was born on Earth, in a city called Seoul. I have been trained since I could walk. I have killed more enemies of humanity than I can count. My government calls me an asset. My enemies call me a nightmare. She paused. But you may call me the Reaper. Silence filled the chamber. The word hung in the air like poison. Reaper? The Keth ambassador's voice was barely a whisper. What does that mean? Yuna turned to face him. Her expression did not change, but something in her eyes made the small alien press back into his seat. It means I am death, she said. And humanity has sent me to deliver a message. Oren tried to laugh again, but the sound caught in his throat. You are one woman. What can one woman do against the Galactic Council? Yuna looked at him. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was the smile of a predator looking at prey. You killed 47,000 of my people on New Busan, she said. Men, women, children. You buried them in mass graves and called it pacification. Her voice remained calm, but something in the room changed. The temperature seemed to drop. The lights seemed to dim. You think you know war, Ambassador Oren? You think you understand what humanity is capable of? You are wrong. She reached into her jacket and pulled out a small device. It was black, like her suit, like her ship. She pressed a button, and holographic images appeared in the air above her head. Images of 12 humans. 6 men, 6 women. All of them wore the same black suits. All of them had the same cold eyes. There are 12 Reapers, Yuna said. 1 for each species on this council. We have been watching you for a very long time. We know your worlds. We know your leaders. We know your weaknesses. She looked around the chamber once more. The time for watching is over. Now you will learn what happens when humanity stops asking for peace. She pressed another button on her device. The holographic images changed. Now they showed planets, cities, military bases. This is not a negotiation, Yuna said. This is a declaration. The council members stared at her in horror. For the first time in centuries, the rulers of the galaxy felt something they had almost forgotten. Fear. The holographic images floated above Yuna's head like ghosts. 12 faces. 12 humans. 12 weapons of war, dressed in black suits and cold smiles. Counselor Thax was the first to break the silence. He stood up from his seat, his massive body blocking the light behind him. The Mordai were not easily frightened. They had fought wars across 100 star systems. They had crushed enemies twice their size. This is a trick, he growled. A desperate trick from a desperate species. You cannot seriously expect us to believe that 12 humans pose any threat to the Galactic Council. Yuna turned to face him. She did not seem bothered by his size or his anger. She looked at him the way someone might look at a child throwing a tantrum. Let me tell you a story, she said. 300 years ago, humanity discovered that they were not alone in the universe. We found signals from deep space. We decoded them. We learned that the galaxy was full of life. She began to walk slowly around the chamber, her footsteps still silent on the metal floor. We were excited at first. We thought we would find friends among the stars, partners, teachers. Her voice grew harder. We were wrong. The council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. They knew this history. They had all heard stories about humanity's first contact with alien life. The first species we encountered were the Karnak, Yuna continued. They saw our colony ships as easy targets. They destroyed 3 of our vessels and took the survivors as slaves. 20,000 humans sold across the galaxy like animals. Ambassador Oren opened his mouth to speak, but Yuna cut him off with a sharp look. The second species we met were the Ven. They pretended to be friendly. They offered us technology in exchange for access to our worlds, agreed. 6 months later, they poisoned our water supplies on 4 planets. 80 million humans died before we stopped them. Her voice remained calm, but her eyes were burning now. We learned quickly that the galaxy is not kind to the weak. We learned that other species see us as prey, as resources, as obstacles to be removed. So we made a decision. She stopped walking and faced the council directly. We would never be prey again. The Keth ambassador leaned forward slightly. His large dark eyes were fixed on Una. What decision? What did you do? Una smiled that cold smile again. We created the Reaper program. We took our best genetic scientists, our most advanced cybernetic engineers, our greatest military minds, and we gave them one mission. Create the perfect weapon. Create humans who could fight against any enemy, survive in any environment, and destroy any target. She held up her hand. At first, it looked completely normal. Then, slowly the skin seemed to shift. Metal plates appeared beneath the surface, glowing with faint blue light. Hey, we are not fully human anymore, Una said. Our bones have been replaced with materials stronger than any armor. Our muscles have been enhanced to lift 10 times what a normal human can carry. Our minds have been connected to combat computers that process information faster than any organic brain. She lowered her hand, and the metal plates disappeared beneath her skin once more. But the most important change is here. She tapped the side of her head. We have been trained since birth to feel nothing during combat. No fear, no hesitation, no mercy. We are not soldiers. Soldiers follow orders and fight for causes. We are something else entirely. What are you then? Thax demanded. Una met his gaze without blinking. We are endings. When humanity sends a Reaper, they are not trying to win a war. They are trying to end a species. The chamber fell silent again. Several council members looked sick. Others tried to hide their trembling hands. Ambassador Oren forced a laugh. Even if this is true, you are only one. And you are here, surrounded by the most powerful military forces in the galaxy. What can you possibly do? Una tilted her head slightly. Did you not hear me earlier, Ambassador? There are 12 of us. One for each council species. She pressed a button on her device again. The holographic display changed. Now it showed a map of the galaxy, with 12 red dots scattered across different star systems. Allow me to introduce my family, Una said. The first image appeared. A young man with sharp features and dark hair cut short. This is my brother Tay. He is currently on your homeworld, Ambassador Oren. He has been there for 6 months, working as a servant in your imperial palace. He has full access to every room, every system, every secret. Oren's blue skin turned pale. His 4 hands gripped the edge of his podium. The second image appeared. A woman with a soft face that seemed almost gentle. This is Hannah. She's aboard your flagship Counselor Thax. She joined your crew as a translator 2 years ago. Your admiral trusts her completely. Thax's scales seemed to ripple with shock. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. The third image. A man with a calm expression and kind eyes. This is Jin. He serves the Keth royal family as a gardener. He tends the flowers outside the princess's bedroom window. He has been there for 3 years. Keth ambassador made a small sound of terror. One by one, Una revealed the positions of each Reaper. Day embedded in the Velari military command structure. Mira, operating inside the Mordai intelligence network. Sue, posing as a scientist on the Fenric research stations. Jay, working as a pilot for the Dranth merchant fleet. Yoon, serving as a medic in the Keth Royal Hospital. Each revelation brought new gasps, new looks of horror, new understanding of how deeply humanity had infiltrated their civilizations. We have been among you for years, Una said. Watching, learning, waiting. We know your strengths and your weaknesses. We know your secrets and your fears. We know the names of your children and the locations of your hidden bunkers. She spread her arms wide, gesturing to the images floating above her. This is what humanity does when it prepares for war. We do not build fleets. We do not gather armies. We plant seeds in enemy soil and wait for the right moment to let them grow. Ambassador Oren finally found his voice. It was weak and shaking. Why are you telling us this? If you wanted to destroy us, you could have done it in secret. Una nodded. That is a fair question. The answer is simple. Destruction was never our first choice. We came to the galaxy wanting peace. We sent diplomats and traitors. We offered friendship to anyone who would accept it. Her expression hardened. But then you attacked New Busan. You killed our people. You buried our children in unmarked graves. And when we sent messages asking for explanation, asking for justice, you ignored us. 47 messages, Ambassador. 47 chances to avoid what comes next. She took a step closer to Orin. Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. You did not answer. So now, I am here to deliver a different kind of message. The holographic display changed one final time. It showed a single image. The burning ruins of a Valari military base. 3 hours ago, Reaper Day eliminated your high command, Yuna said. Your emperor is dead. Your fleet admirals are dead. Your generals are dead. The Valari Empire no longer has a head. Orin's legs gave out. He collapsed against his podium, staring at the image in disbelief. This is what happens when humanity stops asking, Yuna said. Now let me tell you what we want. Ambassador Orin remained on the floor, his forearms struggling to hold his body upright. His pale blue skin had turned almost white. Around him, the other council members sat frozen in their seats, afraid to move, afraid to speak, afraid to draw the attention of the woman in black who stood at the center of their chamber. Yuna watched them with patient eyes. She had seen this reaction before. Fear did strange things to powerful beings. Some became angry. Some became desperate. Some simply shut down, unable to process a reality that did not match their expectations. She gave them time to recover. She was not cruel without purpose. Finally, Counselor Thax spoke. His voice was rough, but he had regained some control. You said you want something? What is it? What does humanity demand? Yuna reached into her jacket and pulled out a small data chip. It was barely larger than her thumbnail, made of the same light-absorbing black material as her ship and her suit. She held it up so everyone could see it. It contains footage from New Busan, she said. Everything that happened during the Valari invasion. Every moment of your pacification recorded by surveillance systems. Personal devices and satellite imagery. She pressed a button on the chip, and holographic images filled the chamber. The council members watched in silence as scenes of horror played out before them. Valari soldiers marching through city streets, buildings burning, people running, screaming, falling, bodies in the roads, bodies in the rivers, bodies everywhere. Then the worst images appeared. Mass graves being dug by construction machines, lines of humans, their hands bound, being led to the edge of deep pits. The sound of weapons firing, bodies tumbling into the darkness below. Children. There were children among them. Several council members looked away. The Keth ambassador covered his large eyes with his small hands. Even Thax, who had witnessed countless battles in his long life, seemed disturbed by what he saw. Yuna let the footage play for a full minute before stopping it. 47,000 humans, she said. Her voice was steady, but there was something dangerous beneath the calm surface. That is not a military action. That is not conquest. That is genocide. Ambassador Orin pushed himself back to his feet. His face was still pale, but anger was starting to replace fear. They resisted. They attacked our forces. We had no choice but to. They resisted. Yuna cut him off. Her voice turned cold as space itself. They were farmers and teachers and shopkeepers. They had no weapons. They had no training. They threw rocks at your soldiers because rocks were all they had. She took a step toward Orin. He stumbled backward. You had plasma rifles and armored vehicles and orbital support. You could have subdued them without killing a single person. Instead, you chose massacre. You chose to make an example. Orin's back hit the wall. He had nowhere else to go. Why? Yuna asked. Why did you kill them all? The Valari ambassador swallowed hard. His forearms trembled at his sides. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely audible. Because they were human. And humans are weak. We thought no one would care. Silence filled the chamber. The other council members stared at Orin with expressions of shock and disgust. Some of them had suspected the truth, but hearing it spoken aloud was different. Hearing it made it real. Why, UNA nodded slowly. Thank you for your honesty, Ambassador. It saves us time. She turned to address the full council. Humanity has terms. These terms are not negotiable. If they are not met, every Reaper will begin their work. Within 1 standard year, the Valari Empire will cease to exist. Not conquered. Not occupied. Erased. Every planet. Every station. Every ship. Every person. The chamber seemed to grow colder. Several council members shifted in their seats. The terms are as follows, Una continued. First, the Valari government will issue a public statement admitting full responsibility for the genocide at New Busan. This statement will be broadcast on every communication channel in the galaxy. Every species, every world, every citizen will hear what you did. Orin made a choking sound. Public admission would destroy the Valari reputation forever. They would become outcasts, hated by every civilized species. Second, the Valari will pay reparations to the families of every human killed. The amount will be calculated based on standard galactic compensation rates. Given the number of victims, this will be substantial. You cannot afford, Orin began. You can and you will, Una said flatly. Sell your warships. Sell your palaces. Sell your Emperor's art collection. We do not care how you find the money, only that you find it. Orin fell silent. Third, every Valari soldier who participated in the massacre will be surrendered to human authorities for trial. We have their names. We have their faces. We know who pulled the triggers. They will face justice according to human law. The implications of this term sank in slowly. Hundreds, perhaps thousands of Valari soldiers would be handed over to the families of their victims. The trials would be broadcast across the galaxy. The executions, if there were executions, would be public. Fourth, the colony of New Busan will be returned to human control immediately. All Valari forces will withdraw within 7 standard days. Any Valari who remains after that deadline will be considered a hostile combatant. These terms were harsh, but they were not unreasonable. Wars had ended with similar conditions before. The council members began to relax slightly. Perhaps this could be resolved without further bloodshed. Then Una delivered the final term. Fifth, the Valari Empire will cede 3 of its core worlds to humanity as permanent compensation. These worlds will become human territory, governed by human law, protected by human forces. The Valari population on these worlds will have 1 year to relocate. Orin's face twisted with rage. 3 core worlds. You expect us to give up 3 of our oldest colonies? Billions of our people live on those planets. 47,000 of my people lived on New Busan, Una replied. Now they are dead. You should be grateful we are not demanding more. This is outrageous. Orin shouted. His forearms waved wildly in the air. The Valari Empire will never accept such humiliation. We will fight. We will destroy every human world in retaliation. Una raised one hand. Just one small gesture. But it was enough to stop Orin mid-sentence. We'll fight, Ambassador? She asked softly. Your Emperor is dead. Your High Command is dead. Reaper Day destroyed them 3 hours ago while you were standing here talking about your great victory. She tilted her head slightly. Right now, the Valari Empire has no leader. No generals. No admirals. Your fleet is scattered and confused, waiting for orders that will never come. Your government is in chaos, Una smiled. It was not a kind smile, so I ask you again, who exactly will fight? Who will refuse our terms? Orin stared at her. His rage slowly drained away, replaced by something much worse. Understanding. He finally understood what humanity had done. They had not just sent a messenger. They had cut off the head of the Valari Empire before the body even knew it was wounded. You already won, he whispered. Before you even walked into this chamber, you had already won. Una nodded. Yes, we did. She looked around at the other council members. These terms apply only to the Valari. The rest of you have done nothing to harm humanity. We have no quarrel with you. But understand this clearly. If any species assists the Volari in resisting these terms, if any species provides them with weapons or shelter or support of any kind, they will share the Volari's fate. No one spoke. No one moved. You have 24 hours to give us your answer, Yuna said. I suggest you use that time wisely. The 24 hours passed slowly. The council members remained in the chamber, afraid to leave, afraid to be alone with their thoughts. Aides brought them food and water. Medical staff checked their vital signs. Security forces tripled their patrols around the station, though everyone knew it was pointless. If the Reapers wanted to reach them, no amount of guards would matter. Ambassador Oren sat in the corner, staring at nothing. He had not spoken since Yuna's departure. His 4 hands lay still in his lap. The fire that had burned in his eyes during his victory speech was completely gone. He looked like a man who had already accepted death. Counselor Thax, however, was not ready to surrender. The Mordai had built their entire civilization on strength. They believed that power was the only thing that mattered in the universe. Weakness was shameful. Defeat was unacceptable. The idea of bowing to a single human woman made his blood burn with rage. As the hours passed, Thax began speaking quietly with other council members. Not all of them, just a few, who seemed equally unwilling to accept Yuna's terms. The Fenric representative, whose species controlled the galaxy's largest weapons manufacturing industry, the Dranth ambassador, whose merchant fleet could move armies across the stars, the commander of the station's security forces, a Mordai like Thax himself. By the 15th hour, they had formed a plan. This is madness, the Keth ambassador whispered when he heard what they intended. You saw what she did to the guards. You heard what happened to the Volari High Command? Fighting them is suicide. Thax shook his massive head. We do not know that any of it was real. The footage could have been faked. The guards could have been drugged. This entire display could be nothing more than a clever trick designed to frighten us into submission. And if it is not a trick, then we will die fighting, Thax growled. That is better than living as slaves to humanity. The Keth ambassador backed away, wanting no part of their scheme. But he did not warn Yuna either. Perhaps he hoped they would succeed. Perhaps he simply wanted to see what would happen. At the 18th hour, Yuna returned to the chamber. She walked through the doors exactly as she had before, calm and unhurried. Her black suit was still perfect. Her dark eyes still held that cold, patient expression. Have you reached a decision? She asked. Thax stood up from his seat. He was smiling now, showing rows of sharp teeth. We have. The council rejects your terms. Furthermore, we place you under arrest for threatening the safety of the galactic government. Guards poured into the chamber from every entrance. There were at least 50 of them, all heavily armed, all pointing their weapons at Yuna. Behind them, Thax's allies rose from their seats, revealing hidden weapons of their own. Yuna did not move. She did not even blink. This is your answer? She asked softly. Thax stepped forward, his massive form casting a shadow over her. You are one woman. Enhanced or not, you cannot fight all of us. Surrender now, and perhaps we will let your people live. For a moment, the chamber was completely silent. Then Yuna did something unexpected. She laughed. It was not a cruel laugh or a mocking laugh. It was the quiet laugh of someone who had just heard a very young child say something foolish. A laugh of genuine amusement mixed with a little sadness. You still do not understand, she said. I did not come here to fight you. I came to give you a chance. A chance to survive. A chance to avoid what comes next. She reached into her jacket. Every guard in the room tensed, fingers tightening on triggers, but Yuna only pulled out a small communication device. She pressed a single button and held it up. Mira, she said. They want proof. A voice came through the device, clear and calm. A woman's voice. Understood. Beginning demonstration now. Every screen in the chamber flickered. The holographic displays that had shown Yuna's images earlier now showed something else entirely. A live feed from deep in Mordai space recognized the location immediately. It was Fortress Krau, the most heavily defended military installation his species had ever built. 50,000 soldiers were stationed there. Orbital defense platforms surrounded it. Underground bunkers could withstand nuclear bombardment. The footage showed the fortress. Burning massive explosions tore through the outer walls. Security systems failed one by one. Doors that should have been sealed were standing open. Bodies lay everywhere, soldiers caught by surprise. Killed before they could even raise their weapons. And walking through the middle of it all was a single figure in a black suit. Mira, she moved through the flames, like they were nothing more than a gentle breeze. Soldiers fired at her. The shots either missed or bounced off her body without leaving a mark. She did not even slow down. "That is impossible," Thax whispered. His scales had turned pale gray. "That fortress has held against entire fleets. How can one person watch?" Una said. On the screen, Mira reached the central command tower. The doors were reinforced with layers of metal thick enough to stop a starship. She placed one hand against them and pushed. The doors crumbled like paper. Inside the command center, Orde officers scrambled to evacuate. Myra let them run. She was not interested in them. She walked to the main computer terminal and began pressing buttons with mechanical precision. "What is she doing?" Thax demanded. "Downloading," Una replied calmly. "Every military secret your species has. Fleet positions, weapon designs, communication codes, defense plans. In about 3 minutes, humanity will know everything the Mordea have ever tried to hide." Thax roared with fury. He charged at Una, his massive claws reaching for her throat. He never touched her. One moment he was moving forward. The next moment he was on the ground, his arm bent at an impossible angle. Una stood over him, her expression unchanged. She had moved so fast that no one in the chamber had seen what happened. "I told you," she said quietly. "I did not come here to fight. But if you force me to defend myself, you will lose." The guards in the room hesitated. They had seen what happened to Thax. They had seen what Mira was doing to Fortress. Krail. Their weapons suddenly felt very small and useless. Una looked around the chamber. "Does anyone else want proof?" No one moved. On the screens, Mira finished her download. She turned and walked out of the command center, stepping over fallen soldiers without a second glance. As she left the fortress, she pressed something on her wrist. Behind her, the entire installation exploded. The blast was enormous. It consumed the fortress, the surrounding mountains, and several kilometers of land in every direction. When the smoke cleared, nothing remained but a crater filled with molten rock. 50,000 Mordai soldiers. Gone in an instant. Una turned off her communication device and slipped it back into her jacket. She looked down at Thax, who was still lying on the floor, cradling his broken arm. "That was one Reaper," she said. "One, and she was not even trying hard." She stepped over his body and addressed the rest of the council. "You wanted to know what humanity is capable of? Now you know. We do not send fleets. Because we do not need fleets, we do not build armies because we do not need armies. We build Reapers, and when we release them, civilizations fall." The Fenric representative dropped his weapon. It clattered on the floor, the sound echoing in the silent chamber. One by one, the others followed. Guards lowered their rifles. Counselors sank back into their seats. "There are 12 of us," Una continued. "One for each of your species. Right now, they are waiting, watching. If I do not return to my ship within the next hour, they will begin their work. Not just against the Volari. Against all of you." She walked toward the main doors. "You have 6 hours left to accept our terms. I suggest you use them wisely." As she reached the doorway, she paused and looked back one final time, and Counselor Thax. "The next time you think about fighting humanity, remember what you saw today. Remember that Mira destroyed your greatest fortress without breaking a sweat. Her dark eyes seemed to glow in the dim light. And remember that I am stronger than she is." And she was gone. Leaving the council to contemplate the ruins of their arrogance, the 6 remaining hours felt like an eternity. The council chamber had become a place of quiet despair. Counselor Thax lay in a medical bed that had been brought in by station staff, his broken arm wrapped in healing bandages. He stared at the ceiling without speaking. The fire that had burned in him was completely extinguished. Ambassador Orin had not moved from his corner. He seemed to have aged decades in a single day. The other council members sat scattered around the room, each lost in their own thoughts. The guards had left. There was no point in pretending they could protect anyone. Only the Keth ambassador seemed capable of rational thought. He moved between the others, speaking quietly, trying to organize what remained of galactic leadership. "We must accept the terms," he said to the Fenric representative. "There's no other choice." The Fenric, a tall creature with skin like polished metal, shook his head slowly. "If we surrender to humans now, we show weakness. Other species will see it. They will think they can take what they want from us." "Other species will see a galaxy at peace," the Keth replied. "They will see that the alternative was extinction. No one will think us weak for choosing survival." One by one, he convinced them. The Dranth, the Fenric, even the minor species representatives who had remained silent throughout the crisis. They all agreed to accept humanity's terms. Only Thax refused to speak. When the Keth ambassador asked for his vote, the Mordai simply turned his head away. "Take that as agreement," the Keth said quietly. "He knows there is no other path." When Una returned at the appointed hour, she found the council waiting for her. They stood in a row at the center of the chamber, their bodies bowed in the universal posture of submission. Even Thax had been helped to his feet. Standing at the end of the line with his bandaged arm held close to his chest, Una walked toward them slowly. Her black suit was still perfect. Her dark eyes still held that patient, watchful expression. She stopped a few meters away and studied each face in turn. "You accept the terms?" she asked. The Keth ambassador stepped forward. He was the smallest being in the room, but in that moment, he carried the weight of the entire galaxy on his narrow shoulders. "We do," he said. "The Galactic Council accepts humanity's terms in full. The Valari will make their public confession. They will pay reparations. They will surrender their soldiers. They will return New Busan. They will cede the 3 core worlds." He paused and looked directly at Una. "We only ask one thing in return. Please, let there be no more death." "Enough blood has been spilled," Una considered his words. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she nodded once. "Humanity does not want war. We never did. We came to the stars looking for partners, not enemies. We hoped to find civilizations that would trade with us, learn from us, grow alongside us." Her voice softened slightly. "But we learned that hope is not enough. The galaxy is cruel to those who cannot defend themselves. So we became something that could not be ignored, something that could not be pushed aside." She gestured around the chamber. "You call this a victory for humanity? It is not. This is a tragedy. 47,000 of my people are dead. Your fortress is destroyed. Your soldiers are gone. The Valari Empire will collapse. Countless lives have been ruined." She shook her head. "There are no winners here, only survivors." Ambassador Orin finally found his voice. It was weak and broken, but it carried across the chamber. "Why? Why send only one person to tell us this? Why not send a fleet? Why not show us your strength in the normal way?" Una turned to face him. Her expression did not change, but something in her eyes shifted. "Because humanity does not declare war with documents or broadcasts," she said. "We do not announce our intentions with speeches or threats. When we decide to fight, we simply send death in a suit to stand before our enemies." She spread her arms slightly. "If you see a Reaper, war has already begun. And by then, it is already too late to stop what comes next." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. "Remember that," Una continued. "Pass it down to your children and your children's children. Tell every species in the galaxy. If they harm humanity, if they touch our people, if they even think about making us their enemy, we will send someone like me to visit them." She turned and walked toward the exit. And unlike me, they may not be in the mood for talking. The doors closed behind her. Her black ship detached from the station and disappeared into the void. The council stood in silence, alone with the weight of what had just happened. Within a month, the Valari Empire collapsed. Ambassador Orin delivered his confession to the galaxy. his voice trembling with shame as he admitted every crime his people had committed. The reparations bankrupted his government. The surrendered soldiers were tried and executed in public ceremonies broadcast across 1,000 worlds. The 3 seeded planets were evacuated in chaos and confusion. Within a year, 4 more council species had voluntarily dissolved their governments. They could not bear the constant fear. They could not sleep, knowing that somewhere a reaper might be watching them. Better to end themselves than to wait for humanity to do it. The remaining species signed treaties of friendship with Earth. They opened trade routes. They shared technology. They did everything they could to prove that they were not a threat. 6 years later, a new council was formed. It met in a different station, built specifically for peace rather than power. The chamber was simple and clean, with no towering ceilings or intimidating lights. Representatives from a dozen species sat around a round table, speaking as equals rather than rivals. Humanity sent a representative. His name was Han. He was a middle-aged man with kind eyes and a warm smile. He wore simple clothes instead of military uniforms. He spoke softly instead of making threats. He brought gifts for everyone and made jokes that crossed cultural barriers. The other representatives liked him immediately. He seemed so different from the Reapers they had heard about. So normal. So human. When the time came to sign the new peace treaty, Hune produced a beautiful pen made of gold and crystal. He signed his name with a flourish and passed the pen to the next representative. "Thank you for this opportunity," he said. "Humanity is honored to join this council. We look forward to a future of cooperation and friendship." The other representatives signed one by one. They smiled and nodded and spoke of bright tomorrows. None of them mentioned what they had noticed when they first entered the chamber. A figure standing in the shadows near the doorway. A woman in a black suit with dark eyes that watched everything. She had not spoken a single word during the entire session. She had not moved from her position. She simply stood there, silent and patient, like a statue carved from midnight. Why, you, and still watching. Still waiting. Still ready. The representatives signed the treaty without hesitation. They agreed to every term Heian proposed. They did not argue or negotiate or make demands, because they remembered what humanity became when peace failed. They remembered the burning fortress and the mass graves and the cold voice speaking of endings. They remembered that somewhere out there, 12 Reapers waited in the darkness. 12 weapons of war dressed in black suits and cold smiles. 12 humans who had given up their humanity so that the rest of their species could keep theirs. And they understood. Finally, the truth that humanity had tried to show them from the very beginning: death does not come in fleets and armies. Death does not announce itself with horns and trumpets. Death walks quietly through crowded rooms. Death shakes hands and makes small talk. Death smiles and asks about your family. And when death finally reveals itself, it is always already too late. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity had never needed to prove their strength through numbers or weapons or territory. Their strength lay in something far more terrifying: the will to do whatever was necessary to protect their people, and 12 individuals who had become the living embodiment of that will. The treaty was signed. Peace was declared. The representatives went home to their families, grateful to be alive, and Yuna returned to the shadows, where she would wait once again, patient, silent, ready, because peace, she knew, was only ever temporary, but the Reapers were forever.